Outreach. All of the rest of the opportunities and potential obstacles, well, challenges for pads and their use, none of that is going to matter if people aren't creating pads. And that's where pads have failed. In my experience with entities and people I've spoken with who have attempted pads. They say, we know about pads, they're great, we love the idea, we think they would be super helpful. We offer people pads and no one ever does them. And that's where it typically ends. It's just again and again, I hear the same thing, but people won't create them. And this is about outreach. That problem is able to be overcome and it's able to be avoided with certain knowledge. So hopefully our experience, my experience with not going about things in a way that is most likely to lead to success. Hopefully that can help other people to avoid falling into the same holes that we have fallen into. But I think at this point, outreach is something that we've managed to figure out. It's really not all that difficult, but it's very easy to get wrong. Okay, so it's going to vary with the population, of course. Now, there are some generalities and some common approaches, and I'll get to that in a minute. But it is gonna vary with the population. So for people experiencing homelessness, and I'm talking about unsheltered homelessness, so people who are living outside. When you approach them, if you approach them and you say, you know, hi, I'm Laurie. I am here offering to help people create psychiatric advance directives. A psychiatric advance directive is a way for you to tell people the treatments and services that work for you if you were ever involuntarily hospitalized. They've probably left pretty much right after I said the word psychiatric. And so that doesn't work. What does work though, is if I approach them and I say, you know, hi, I'm Laurie. I don't know, have you ever been in a psychiatric hospital? Have your rights ever been violated in a psychiatric hospital? What about a jail? Have your rights ever been violated in a jail? Have you ever had your rights violated? And as soon as you say that, the answer is pretty consistently yes. Yes, that has happened. And so then there's the opportunity to say, okay, great. Well, not great that your rights have been violated, but we have the opportunity right now to work together to create a document that is a rights document. It is a legal document that can help you to assert and protect your rights so that if you are in a hospital, obviously we never want that to happen, but if you are, your rights will be protected. You can assert your rights in a legal document. Same thing with the jails or with the police. So just changing that approach. And I think that it's pretty consistent that avoiding the word psychiatric with certain populations is really best. If you focus on the word rights, you're probably not going to go wrong. But for people who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness, you have a moment. That's all you get. You get a small moment. And if you don't grab that person in the right way, if you don't link into something that truly matters to them, then they're going to leave. Or even worse, they're going to think that as soon as you say psychiatric or as soon as you say hospital, that what you're talking about is putting them in a hospital. So hit the rights, hit it right away, and then go ahead and you can do the pad right then. That's for people who are experiencing homelessness. For people who are already engaged within the criminal justice system, and obviously these populations overlap, right? I mean, really, when we're talking about these different populations, they really aren't different populations. Typically, there's all kinds of overlap, but it's really about where you're engaging them at their point in the system. Are you engaging them while they're unsheltered homelessness, or while they're in jail, or while they are in a mental health court, or while they are about to be put under conservatorship? Where are you engaging them? That's what's going to matter when it comes to outreach. Okay, so if someone is in the criminal justice arena, it's going to matter because their incentives for creating a pad are going to be different, right? If I'm facing, criminal charges and I might end up going to jail, I don't really care what you're talking to me about this document over here. I'm not going to really listen. I mean, I'm hungry, right? And you're talking about a tablecloth. At least that's what it sounds like to me. If you're able to engage that person and show, well, this is how this can help you. Guess what? You are caught in the criminal justice system right now. So that sucks. But we have a way to create a document that will enable your defense team, enable the court to be able to communicate with you better, to understand what you need and what you're saying and what you want, to be able to help you to understand what's going on. Or guess what? This is also an opportunity to be able to take a good look at what the terms of probation might be. This may be an opportunity to create services based on what you say you need. So there's going to be different types of incentives in there. Same thing with people who are under or at risk of being placed under conservatorship. A PAD is a fantastic opportunity to demonstrate within a legal document decision-making and responsible decision-making. And not only that, especially, for mental illness, it's so critical because it's not static. It's not like IDD. It's distinct because it's not static. There will be ups and downs. It's going to happen. And so what a PAD enables is it enables me to say, you know what? I understand that I may have challenges at some point in the future. I probably will. So I can go ahead and prepare for that. Here are the things that I'm laying out in my preparation for those times where I am not able where I may be in crisis. And not only does that protect me when it comes to, I don't want my life falling apart, but it also puts in place the safety measures, the safety net that can prevent someone from being placed under conservatorship. Because if the concern is that when the person goes into crisis, all of these bad things are going to happen, they're going to make all these bad decisions. Well, okay, we can create a method for addressing those issues that will occur only during, say, a mental health crisis, and we can do it in the PAD. Veterans, that's very specific population. Definitely focus on going to the VA for people who have experienced combat. The way that the outreach is conducted is really important. A civilian approach is not going to be the greatest. It does help to have a combat veteran do the outreach because they have that credibility. They make it okay to say, yeah, I would really like this psychiatric advance directive. It's an acknowledgement of a psychiatric component, which is scary. But if I have another combat veteran who is basically saying, in their outreach that this is okay, it is a strength to do this. That's how you can engage veterans most effectively. Post-first psychosis is a fantastic opportunity because the person has hopefully come out of psychosis. But even if they still have psychosis symptoms, that's okay. They're going to probably be at a point where if their first episode psychosis experience has not been horrific, if they have not experienced the mental health system in a way that makes them never want to be involved in the mental health system again, then that's going to be a really good opportunity to approach them and go ahead and find out, okay, well, these are the things that are working for you. Let's go ahead and get them in a legal document. On the flip side, and you may have a bit of a problem with outreach, you have to be very careful about who does the outreach. If the person post first episode psychosis has had a really bad experience with the mental health system, let's say that they've been put involuntarily in a hospital and they've just had a terrible experience, then the rights approach is going to be best, right? You've just had a really bad experience in the hospital. You're telling me you've had a really bad experience in the hospital. Great. Not that you had a bad experience, but we have a document that can help you with this. And the thing that would be such an opportunity when it comes to first episode psychosis is if you can get people right then, before 10 years have gone by, 20 years have gone by, and all of those life opportunities are missed, then that's how we can really change trajectories. Obviously with RAP, PADS are a natural bookend to RAP. That's probably the easiest approach of all, to be able to link creating a pad with creating a wrap. It's just the most natural thing. And that's going to be, and that population is easier to reach, right? There is a big difference between outreach for pads for people who have created or are creating wraps versus somebody who is unsheltered homeless. They can all create pads, but the outreach is going to be very different. Now, just as every population, it's very important to really consider, with this unique population, what is the best outreach approach? There are still consistent ways to make mistakes. And we have stepped into a lot of them. Okay, so active engagement. Typically when we do outreach just in general, let's say we're trying to reach folks who, I don't know, have been affected by a natural disaster, and we want to help them to deal with title issues so that they can get help from FEMA. I don't know. Maybe we do flyers. Maybe we do videos. Maybe we have announcements. And that's all great for many, many things, but it doesn't work for PATS. It's passive, right? I can put out a flyer. I can put those flyers all over the place, and it's not going to work. It's not, you're just not going to get people to create pads that way. It won't work. It's the natural go-to, and it will not work. That doesn't mean that flyers aren't great. It doesn't mean that they can't accompany other things, because obviously that's where you can get some solid information, but a flyer alone is not going to work. It's not going to have any effect. You're just wasting the paper. Okay. So if none of that's going to work, all of our standard approaches, then what do we do? Okay. I always like to think of people with mental health challenges or mental health diagnosis as trees. So I think of this beautiful forest, and I miss forests. Texas is not known for its forests. So I think about the big population of people with mental health challenges who could benefit from having a psychiatric advance directive. Now, how do we get them to want psychiatric advance directives? How do we get them to understand and with the opportunities and really grab onto it? So in order to access the forest isn't coming to us. Flyers are not going to work. We have to engage the trees. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we have to go to the forest. So we have to go where people are congregating, where they're already receiving services, and not just where they're receiving services, where they're receiving services that they like, services that are helpful and positive and things that they want. So peer groups are a perfect opportunity, linking with the peer organizations. That's the lowest hanging fruit. It is the easiest way to get pads to people, to get clients for pads, is to go to established peer groups, speak to people in person, and that's an easy way. Wrap, again, it is a nice bookend. Pads are a great bookend, easy. Clubhouses, we have done a lot of outreach in clubhouses. They also are a great location. Mental health courts, but you're gonna have to be careful with mental health courts, jail diversion and public defenders. But that's kind of a topic for it's a different topic in some ways. The VA is fabulous. Especially VAs where they're providing great services. In my experience, all of the VAs that I've engaged with have been wonderful. Their services have been so fantastic that I wish that all of our clients could go there. I understand that different VAs they vary. But for us, especially when a VA is a strong VA and they have those relationships with their folks, it's a great opportunity. Community centers. You want to go to places where people are, where they feel safe, where they feel comfortable, where they're going to be able to hear you. So churches are also great. ID recovery is an interesting one because so many people who have mental health challenges, especially people who are experiencing homelessness, they need new IDs, right? Or they need an ID. And so there are any kind of entity that's helping someone to get an ID, that is a place that's helping. So if you can latch on to, hey, you're doing ID recovery over here, we actually do this. You're doing ID recovery over here. Well, let's just do a direct referral to PADS. Medical and dental outreach. I think that this one is really great for, especially for people who are experiencing homelessness. When you have the on the ground doctors that go out into the community, dentists who go out into the community, mobile medical dental teams. If you can attach to them, that's a perfect opportunity. Obviously, you don't want to interfere with them, but it's a way to establish that connection, that trust that is essential to getting a person to even consider listening and wanting to create a pad. Food is always a good one, right? Anywhere that is providing food. Obviously you're not going to want to try to talk to people about pads while they're in line for food, but once they've gotten their food and they're eating their food, or they've just had their food, this is a perfect opportunity. And just in general, offering food seems to be a good tactic. Certainly is with me. Okay, so in person, definitely best. It's going to be really challenging to engage people if you're not in person. That physical connection is so important. Having the community collaborations, again, this is where you combine your resources. That, we're doing this one thing over here and y'all are doing these other things over here. Well, we can combine our efforts, and this is a way to link pads into what's already occurring. We also do peer-led virtual presentations, and we have a lot of clients that come in through that method. So that is virtual. It'd be better if it was in person, but it is virtual and it's led by a peer, and people can come and watch about pads and ask questions. It's by peers and for people who are consumers. It is not by providers or for providers. That presentation is limited to that population. And so it's a safe space where somebody who has experienced the system is telling about pads and the opportunity, and really able to answer questions and understand where the person is coming from. It's a safe place to be able to ask questions and express doubt. So you have to go to the forest, and now you're going to select a grove. And like I said, it's really important to focus on rights emphasis. Avoid using psychiatric when that's appropriate. For some populations, it's not going to matter. Someone who's coming out of RAP, you can call it a psychiatric advance directive. It's not going to be an issue. Someone who is experiencing homelessness, that is going to be an issue. So, but just in general, emphasizing the fact that it is a rights document at its essence is the way to go. I would really avoid talking about diagnoses. There's no reason for it. I cannot think of any reason why a diagnosis would need to come up in order for someone to create a pad. It is a potential barrier. Talking about diagnosis is a potential barrier to someone creating a pad and to being able to help that person. And there is no negative to not bringing up a diagnosis. I do, again, target the message to the audience. It's helpful to be both upbeat in general, as well as to focus on individual rights and social justice. That's gonna depend on the audience. You really do want to make sure that it's interactive. So, for example, when we were in person and we would do outreach at the clubhouse. So one of the things that we found was that I would go, I would do my little spiel for 20 minutes, get everyone all riled up. Woohoo, everyone's excited, total engagement. People are talking with me. I'm answering questions. We have all of this enthusiasm. And then we have a sign-up sheet, and no one signs up. So the active engagement It can't just stop with the in-person, I've come to you, I'm telling you about pads, I'm answering your questions. I can stand here and answer your questions for as long as we need in order to get somebody to sign up for the pad. Most of the time, again, there's always going to be some low-hanging fruit, but to get to the people who want one, who are interested in one, but are not going to sign up, what we do is we sit down with them. So someone has expressed an interest. They do want to create a pad, but now we have a sign up sheet and nobody's going to the sign up sheet. What we do is we'll go and we'll sit down with people one-on-one, and we'll sit with a pad template and we'll go over it and we'll look at it and we'll talk and I'll answer questions and then I will sign them up. They don't need to write it down. We can do it. We handle it all. So that active engagement cannot stop with the in-person, say, pad pitch and Q&A. It has to be followed through all the way. So that one-on-one connection, that is what is so important. And it's also really helpful for the person to understand that I can say I want one now and I can change my mind. This is not pressure. There's no commitment here. Depending on the population, what I would do is I would go ahead for some people. So for people who are experiencing homelessness, you're going to want to go ahead and do the pad right then. But for people who you're going to be able to create an appointment, I would go ahead. What we do is we go ahead and get all of the most essential information, only the essential information, because we don't want the person to leave because now we're asking them a bunch of random questions that are tedious. We get only the essential information so that in advance of the pad appointment, we handle everything that we need to handle. So that when they come in, there's not, oh, well, we have to do all of these other things before we start creating the pad. We eliminate as much of those other things as we possibly can. It's really important to go ahead and make sure that you have their contact information, but not just the contact information. This is for people who you're going to be able to schedule appointments, but the method they prefer to be contacted. Do they prefer to be called? Do they prefer to be texted? What about email? Is there a time of day? Are there days of the week? Do they want you to call and maybe we've had people who would say, let it ring twice and then hang up and then I'll call you back. That stuff is very specific and it's going to be really important because anytime an appointment is created, you can't just expect the person to just show up. Now they may, and that's great. But best practice would be to follow up with the person and remind them that the appointment is coming, and to do so in a way where they are where your contact with them is a positive and is not, oh gosh, who is this person who's calling me and why are they calling me and why are they leaving me a message? And I hate the phone and I hate voicemail. So you can eliminate all that in that initial conversation. Find out, how do you want to be contacted? When do you want to be contacted? What day is best? All of that kind of information. The other thing that's going to really help with the pad appointment, again, if you can make a pad appointment, is to go ahead and get a med list from the person. So if they are on meds, and if they want to continue to take the meds, then it's helpful to go ahead and get the med list of, what med, what dosage, how many times a day, so that it can be pre-filled into the pad so that you don't have to deal with that in advance. It also helps if you could go ahead and find out, hey, do you have people that you want to support you? And who are those people? Do you have somebody that you would like to make medical decisions for you if you're not able to do so? Who is that? What's their name? Do you have their phone number? Go ahead and get as much of that information as you can. It won't take very long, and it will help with going ahead and pre-filling those parts of the pad so you don't have to deal with it. Okay, so I think that when it comes to outreach, what's really going to be helpful is once the counties have decided on their specific populations, that's where it's really important to look and go, okay, well, this population we're focusing on, where do they go? How do we access them? Where is it best to access them? What community partners do we have that are already engaging with this person? What services are they receiving? Or is there a medical truck or team going out? Is there a dental team going out? Can we attach to them? For special populations like farm workers, you're going to really have to engage the entire community. So that's where you're really going to need to focus in on who is my population, what do they trust, who do they trust, where is my in, so that I can transfer that trust to myself. And so just to wrap up, this does not need to be a barrier that stops the process. That is what it has been. And for each of the populations, there are different tips and tricks. And I'm hoping, again, like I said, that our experiences with all of these different populations, the mistakes that we have made, at the very least, hopefully our mistakes can benefit other people so that others don't walk into it and end up getting frustrated and thinking, well, no one wants paths, when really all it is that we're approaching people in a way that's not really effective. Okay, so that's all, and I am going to stop recording. Thank you if you listened.